start off with INTTRA because from my perspective of having covered INTTRA for the better part of 14 years, even before I got into tech, you guys have been amongst the most partner-friendly software systems out there. So what's sort of the theory behind that, and how has that evolved over the years?
Yeah, so INTTRA is, as I think most of you know, is a cloud-based network platform bringing shippers, forwarders, and carriers together. And that has been the premise of INTTRA, to be neutral and providing that services. In order to do that, we have to always said that we have about 150 alliance partners today. So we grew our network with the data providers, with the TMS providers, and with the service providers. The functionality that we are good at, which is execution, and functionality which are complementary, which provide services to across the industry, we have always been open to partner with, and I think that's what Eric mentions. I'll take a moment here and also talk a little bit about the acquisition that has happened of INTTRA, of E2open, which was announced on Monday. And what, if you want to imagine a supply chain, I think somebody also said in panel yesterday, there are three components, right? There's a planning component, there's an execution component, and there's a settlement component. And each one of us around this table, around this room, work on one or more of the components. INTTRA's key proposition has always been strong on the execution component in making sure the booking, shipping instructions, ocean schedule, those things are taken care of. And in my world, or at INTTRA's world, it was always about door-to-door visibility. And visibility is a overhyped word in our industry, or overused word in the industry, depending on from whose perspective. So we see door-to-door. Now with the acquisition on E2open side, it's more about the first component, the planning component. So now certainly that world has opened to the suppliers for the manufacturers who assemble all the things and manufacture something, and also does INTTRA does the execution, and on the other side, which is on the retail shelf, how the things are moving on the retail shelf. So if you want to imagine Dell, or if you want to imagine a pharmaceutical company, based on what the movements are happening on the retail shelf and how it is connected to the just-in-time sourcing from the different vendors who are sourcing and the manufacturers assembling. So it's a complementary offering between E2open and INTTRA, and it just comes together, which does not mean that INTTRA is going to continue the TMS integrations that we have had and be open to the ancillary partnerships and things that we don't do on any of this section, planning, execution, as well as on settlement side. So that continues.
Great. I have more questions to ask about that, but Eric, would love your thoughts. You are, and I could let you describe it, but I'll go ahead and describe it for you. You are a piece of the bigger visibility puzzle, right? So you're looking at a very discrete area of the supply chain. So can you explain kind of how that fits into like where you need to integrate to give people that broader view?
Yeah, because really, to get true end-to-end visibility for anything, like it doesn't exist today. Yeah. You only can look at certain segments within that. And what we looked at was really saying everybody has problems with unlocking access to their data. How do they analyze their data? How do they normalize it? How do they distribute it amongst their own entities? And that was really what we set out to do, and it only can be done through partnerships, because the number of integrations that you have to deal with, the number of ancillary companies to like essentially tie all of this together, it's just too numerous to do on your own. And that's really what we had set out to do 4 years ago. In those integrations, we're up to over 100 plus ourselves, from different port authorities, terminals, other kinds of data providers, and that's growing. So that we essentially can make it simple for a cargo owner, a freight forwarder, or a trucker to find out what's going on. They don't have to do that heavy burden of figuring out where is it, who do I need to integrate with, and weave all of that together. Because as Brad said before, it takes weeks to integrate a TMS. How do you get it down to like 4 hours? I want to make it log in and you're done. And that's the kind of integrations that we're looking at establishing.
Well, so just to drill a little bit deeper on like the word partners, the sources of data that you're getting from ports, terminals, other things, do you kind of consider those partners, or are those sources of data? And then on the output side, so who you're integrating with, how would you sort of characterize?
Well, I mean, for us, partnerships really evolves. There's integrations we have that have no personal relationship whatsoever to we have integrations with, really what I do consider very deep partners, very open conversations. We've got very deep integrations. All of that is proprietary at the end of the day between the various partners. But to us, it's also like, how we try to work with Advent for certain projects that we're working on, to how we, work with a lot of other companies that we can't, always talk about just yet. But there's a lot of different degrees, but we're pretty much open to anything.
And that all comes from a company on the companies you would partner with. That all comes from they have a platform, you have a missing piece of their puzzle. How do they integrate the
Correct.
data that you're collecting?
Right, because we look at what's the feedback. That feedback can either be we're driving better business to them. That feedback could be more of a commercial relationship regarding how they access the data back from us. So there's lots of different ways to slice and dice, but it's always mutual.
Okay. Carl?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us have heard people say, you can't boil the ocean over the last couple days. I think the goal of all of our companies is to create as much enterprise value as possible and do that with limited resources and constraints of capital and constraints of engineering resources. All of us up here, and I think maybe, but for you now over the last week, did a fairly niche component of the overall picture, right? And for us to effectively add value to our customers, whether they be shippers or forwarders or whomever they may be, there's a necessity to integrate. It's just, there's no way around it. And you can try and twist people's arms and force them to just only use your system. And that works from time to time. And of course we would love everyone to just live in your environment always, but that's not the reality of the way people want to live. And so, it really is driven, I think, from a customer demand. And when we look at this, we really look at it from a customer demand perspective, right? So we have some mass of customers that are all asking for the same integration, and we then prioritize that and build it and make it happen. And, I think for us, it's a challenge because there are so many integrations and opportunities and partnerships, and the reality is they're not all standardized, and no one has, very few people have, perfectly documented API, and there's a lot of sort of one-off custom things, and there's definitely a lot of opportunity for improvement, I think, in the industry from a standardization perspective, and then there's lots of opportunities for guys like Brian and Shane out there to do some things where they're making this a less onerous process and sort of looking at it from the perspective of sort of being a middleware and the goods and bads that come out of that, I guess.
Yeah, interesting. So we have two panelists here that I would consider startups and two that are absolutely not startups. Alan, you're in the non-startup phase. Remind me when Advent was founded, and then
20 years ago.
20, yeah. So just about the same time as INTTRA. So talk to me about talk to us, I should say, about how you think about who Advent partners with and extending either accessing Advent through another system or partnering with someone to expand what they can do through your platform.
Yeah, so we're really focused, everybody's talking about visibility, and that's because we interface with these terminal operating systems, the port authorities, the truckers in a lot of port areas. That's a piece of our puzzle. Just to compare, maybe, Eric's side, he has visibility to places we don't have interfaces with, and vice versa. So there's some symbiotic nature to that. We're not going to do this individually. I think where we somewhat differ and we add value is with the executional capabilities. Your last panelist, I don't know if he's still here, Brad, maybe. He said our end goal here is automation from order to cash. And there's a lot of moving parts. There's thousands of pieces of, or thousands of handoff points from between that flow. And what we're trying to do in the partnership, approach is to kind of cobble as much of this together so that whomever we're talking to, be it a big 3PL, TMS provider, shippers who are, wanting to pull information and push their cargo versus just kind of being left to the whim of their 3PL. We're trying to get together on these opportunities that are going to turn into revenue for us. it's cobbling together and you know, a solution that adds more value than just us individually, kind of 1 + 1 is 3. So we look at, yes, visibility is important, but because of our, let's just say our interfaces to the terminal operating systems like a Navis or a Tideworks or a Jade or whatever, and the kind of truck registries from a port authority, we can enable a lot of executional control that you can really do something with. So that if you're a TMS provider, you know, mandating when the cargo is gonna flow versus, well, we're gonna wait until the cargo's available and then I'll dispatch a truck to pick it up and then I'll hope that they go get it when I want it. Our approach is, well, let's give the information early, let's provide updates along the way, and then if you want to make an appointment, first available shift, last free day, you want to pay the fees, all that stuff is a programmatic exchange between partners, not I'm calling to my trucking company and screaming